This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Spring is packed patios, parties, wedding weekends, and RK Zero Proof keeps you in the mix without the morning after regret. As the original Zero Proof Spirits brand, RK's warm molecule gives you that real deal burn of whiskey or tequila with none of the alcohol. 0 calories, 0 sugar, and a whole lot of freedom to enjoy the moment. Sip smarter this season at rkzeroproof.com. That's rkzeroproof.com.
Well, let us talk about the Chargers then, Brian, because they only have 5 picks in the draft. The NFL mock draft database consensus first round pick for them is Caleb Banks, D lineman out of Florida Gator. I'm not so sure about that. You would think that based on what happened to them last year, that the Chargers would be looking interior O-line.
Yeah, and like Trevor Penning came across from the Saints, a guy who was former guest of the show, and the Saints were quickly to move off him. He's getting another contract, but he didn't really do. It hasn't lived up to potential. We saw time and time again. Like Justin Herbert's played with a broken arm essentially for a period of the season. His left arm is broken, and that's what all the struggles of the offensive line. He get very little support. Even the playoff game against the Patriots, like we spoke about time and time again about the fact the Patriots defense did a lot to get them to the Super Bowl, but he had no time in that game whatsoever. And look, he had a very good season, but he was playing with a banged up offensive line, players missing, and he struggled. And if you look at the other interior, like I think they need an edge rusher. So it's going to be a tricky one to see what way to go, because I think they're starting with a really proper edge rusher. I know Clelin Mack is coming back, but he's at the back end of his career. Bose has moved on. I think there's a gap there. But I would agree. Like Justin Herbert is the man to bring this team forward, isn't he? And like without an offensive line, and like they have a strong game with the rookie running back going to a second season, they need to give him better support as well in terms of the lanes. I go offensive line as well. Yeah.
Shane, I remember well when we were looking at the playoff game in our live watch along last year, and you said the only team that the Patriots could beat in the playoffs would be if they were lucky enough to get the Chargers, and that wasn't the only team they beat in the playoffs, to be fair, but it happened just like you called it, where the Chargers offensive line / turnstile just wasn't able to hold up to what the Patriots were able to muster on a pass rush that up until that point of the season had been a bit meh, and then outperformed in the playoffs to get them to the Super Bowl. But losing Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater torpedoed the Chargers season. They got to protect Justin Herbert. They just got to do more in a lot of areas for a team that you could squint every season and fool yourself into thinking that this is going to be the Chargers' year. If it is going to be their year, they really do need a good draft.
Yeah, and just to follow on what we were talking about earlier, I mean, you talk about offensive line and the Chargers, but what do we talk about? And this is one of the reasons why I was confident for the Patriots coming into that game is the Chargers with Joe Alt and the Chargers without Joe Alt. And you know, as great as Joe Alt is, it's not good enough for the team to be so reliant on one player. I mean, the Chargers is in such desperate need for good guards. I think they're looking in Temple more just to try and see if they can find someone to bring in. Right guard, left guard. I know, like Brian alluded to earlier, they brought in Cole Strange. That's why I think that it is strange that a lot of mock drafts have them going on defense. As much as, you know, the defensive front line could do a better pass rush. Just look at the stats on the offensive line last year. They're somewhere between 30th and 32nd, depending on who you ask. The fact that Justin Herbert in that playoff game got absolutely no traction because the Patriots were just able to just plow through it and keep getting to him and getting to him and getting to him. They can't get the run game going either, which wasn't a great start. So look, I think this is...
I mean, if you're the Chargers, what this team is screaming out to me is, Ciaran Boyle says it all the time, it's a copycat league. They're looking at what the Patriots did last year. They're looking at what the Bears did last year. Rebuild your O-line, transform your offense. They brought in Mike McDaniel, who, as we know, is a very creative offensive coach. Whatever about how his head coaching stint went in Miami, I don't think anyone underestimates what this guy can do with the talent that the Chargers do have available to them on offense, provided that they can block.
And this is the great thing about the Chargers with McDaniel in there. McDaniel is a really, really good schemer for the run game. I know he was a run game coordinator in Atlanta, I think, before he moved up. Moved up the chain, but we saw that as well with Achan. If he's given the right offensive lineman, if he's given the right space to do it, it didn't always complement, because it's almost like they focus too much on quarterback play because they spent money on getting in Hill and Tua. It's a different situation in LA, where they can, I think, focus more on trying to give Hampton the ball, and yes, to have Lad McConkey to use there in the pass game, but the run game is going to be key, and for that you need a strong offensive line. You need an offensive line that knows the scheme, that you can coach well, and I think if you do that, I mean, you're referring to the Bears there. The Bears go from having one of a pretty poor offensive line in 2024 to having the third best last year. Joe Tooney, of course, being the keystone to that, but it wasn't just him. It was all across. It was the focus of coaching. It was the focus of philosophy. It was the focus of draft, and you turn yourself into a team that that now people have a lot more confidence in terms of Super Bowl runs, and the Chargers are that kind of move away. I know the copycat league point is fair, but it's a very, very clear path for the Chargers now. You could argue that maybe using all draft capital and guards means that you're going to end up with a lot of inexperience, and you could do with more sort of veteran muscle being put into the O-line. Again, they probably haven't satisfied that need in the way that they should have done. I know Tyler Badaj as in the center was a big acquisition, but yeah, I think it's fairly simple. Like if they don't have any offensive line, forget about the run game and the pass game, because they're good on skill position. They're well coached defense. I think they've got enough skilled defensive players to at least keep them afloat as an above average defense. It's offensive line or bust for me for LA.
Where do you think they're going to go, Ciaran?
Can you draft identity? Is that available in the draft this year? Because what do the Fraudgers lack? The Fraudgers lack an identity. I mean, the main gripe that I have with the Chargers is, what's the calling card? I mean, they're not overly physical. They've got a nice defense. They were, fifth in total defense, top 10 in red zone and rushing defense. What's their identity on offense? I mean, they got Justin Herbert, who looks good, but he was hamstrung or Armstrong for most of 25. I mean, the issue with the Chargers is they need to figure out who they are first, because I don't think the Chargers have that gravitas in the league just yet. They don't have the mystique of Lambeau. They don't have the mystique of Soldier Field, or they
don't have any fans.
Well, that's where I'm leading to. I mean, you look at franchises around the league that are storied and that have built success. The Chargers, I mean, their stadium is a destination stadium. I mean, it really is. They try to import and have fake fans in the stadium. They need to find that identity and figure out what they are. Are they smash mouth defense, or are they going to be fancy football? They're going to be Harbaugh slinging the rock, because they need to figure that out real quick, because they're going to get left behind in 26 if they don't figure it out soon. I've got a lot of concerns about them in general, but pinpointing a couple of spots. Hampton is a nice running back, but he needs help. I mean, he had 9 games, 545 yards and 4 touchdowns. So he's going to need help if you're going to build around him. Kamani Vidal ain't it. I'm sorry. It's 2026 now. The defense is handy. It's serviceable, but again, you need to add some spots to that. They got some nice pieces with Perryman. Khalil Mack might be on the downslide. Tarheeb still is real nice too. We saw Cam Hart in San Francisco. A couple other things. They have a boatload. They got Titans level of cap space on 110 million. So let's see what happens when the draft after all the dust is settled in Pittsburgh, and see what if they decide to cash out on some of that money they have. And the other thing is, with only 5 picks and the 22nd pick, are they going to get rid of that or offer that pick up and move back a little bit and give that up for a few more in the second round or even the third round? Because 5 picks in this draft is not a lot to address a lot of the glaring needs that the Chargers have, in my opinion. We've all talked about the issues with the O-line, but for me, it's more of the skill players. I mean, I think they're going to need help at wide receiver. I think they're going to need help at running back too. Tight end, again, is Sadiq going to be there? Is Stowers going to be there at 22 possibly? But I think for me, the Chargers need to draft some huevos. I think they really do. I think they got to figure out, are they just going to be one of those also rans in the AFC West? Or are they going to put their because Harbaugh, we all know the type of personality Harbaugh is. He just hasn't attached or been able to attach his personality, his intensity, his headbutting of Herbert before the game. He hasn't been able to translate that to the rest of the team. And the team needs to catch up to that and kind of instill into them some of Harbaugh's intensity, because until that happens, for me, it's still going to be a Broncos and Chiefs led division.
Sorry for the lack of a trigger warning on the word Wavos there, Brian. Brian is now allergic to eggs after consuming an abundance of omelets in Super Bowl week last year.
We all did. Can I make a quick comment on the run game? Sorry for the Chargers, Conor. I know the guys spoke about it there very well, but when you think back to when Jim Harbaugh took the job and everybody said, he's going to run the ball down the throat, and you had J.K. Dobbins, who had a really strong season. And I thought it was a bad move for him not to bring him back last year. I know he had his injury problems in Denver, but he went to the Broncos and initially had a really strong start to the season. They kind of tried to move in a different direction. They draft Hampton, they bring in Najee Harris, they got a great spin out of Vidal, in fairness, but that hasn't really worked at the level in which he probably thought last year. I thought he probably thought we're going to be a very run-oriented team. Injuries were a concern. Hampton went missing. Najee Harris got injured. Vidal was expected to do a lot of the workload. It didn't work out for them. I think if he's to get this team motoring offensively, take the pressure off Herbert, they're going to have a three-headed monster back there. I'm not entirely sure where they're at in terms of who that's going to be in its entirety. In terms of the tour back, Najee Harris is already visiting other teams, so looks like he's not coming back. But that for me is where it needs to start. They need to get the run game really effective. Offensive line obviously is going to have to contribute towards that.
Yeah, I think you're right, because it's not looking like the kind of offense that Mike McDaniel can work with and work his magic with without those pieces. We shall see what they do.
Spring is calling. Weddings, patio sessions, barbecues, and you want that drink vibe without sacrificing tomorrow. That's RK Zero Proof. As the world's first zero proof spirits brand, RK created the warm molecule, giving you the smooth kick of whiskey or tequila with zero alcohol, 0 calories, 0 sugar, and all the peace of mind you need to enjoy every moment. Step into the zero proof season at rkzeroproof.com.